You know, there's a peculiar thing that happens when you start seeing clearly. Not the dramatic enlightenment of spiritual folklore, but the quiet kind. The kind where the world simply becomes transparent. Where you see through the games people play, the stories they tell themselves, the elaborate theater of human life. And what's strange is this: the clearer you see, the lonelier it gets. Not the loneliness of being alone. That's easy. That's just silence and space. No, this is the loneliness of being surrounded by people and realizing you're speaking a different language, using the same words, but meaning something entirely different. Let me tell you what I mean. Imagine you're watching a movie, a really engrossing one. The kind where you forget you're sitting in a theater, forget you're watching actors on a screen. You're completely absorbed. The drama feels real, the stakes feel urgent. You laugh, you cry, you grip your armrest during the tense scenes. Now imagine, right in the middle of the most dramatic moment, you suddenly remember, oh, this is a movie. These are actors. None of this is actually happening. The movie doesn't stop. It keeps playing. But your relationship to it has fundamentally changed. You can still watch it, still appreciate the craft, still feel the emotions. But there's a part of you that knows it's not real. And now imagine trying to discuss the movie with someone who's still completely absorbed in it. Who's arguing about whether the hero will survive, whether the villain is truly evil, whether the love story will work out. You try to engage, but everything you say lands wrong. Because you're speaking from outside the movie, and they're speaking from inside it. This is what happens when you begin to see reality clearly. You don't leave the world, you just stop being absorbed in the drama of it. And that shift, that simple shift in perspective, changes everything about how you relate to other people. The first thing you notice is how much of human interaction is performance. Not in a malicious way, not even consciously, but performance nonetheless. People perform their identities, their successes, their struggles, their opinions, their emotions. They're constantly broadcasting. This is who I am. This is my story. This is what I believe. This is what I've achieved. This is what I've suffered. And they're looking for validation, for agreement, for someone to confirm that yes, their story is real, their identity is solid, their performance is convincing. When you're absorbed in your own performance, this exchange works beautifully. You validate their story, they validate yours. Everyone walks away feeling seen, feeling real, feeling like they exist. But when you stop performing, when you see that you are not your story, not your identity, not your achievements or failures, something shifts in how you show up. You're still present, still listening, still caring, but you're not feeding the performance anymore. You're not validating the story as if it's the ultimate truth. You're seeing the person beneath the story, the awareness beneath the identity. And people feel this. They don't think it consciously, but they feel it. They sense that you're not playing the game with the same investment, that you're not confirming their reality in the way they need. And this creates distance, not because you're rejecting them, but because you're no longer participating in the shared hallucination that the stories are who we are. I knew a woman once who worked in a high-powered law firm. Brilliant mind, sharp as they come. She spent years climbing, competing, proving herself in a world that demanded constant performance. And then something cracked open in her. Not a breakdown, a breakthrough. She saw quite suddenly that the entire structure she'd been climbing was made of agreements. Collective agreements about what matters, what's valuable, what success means. And the agreements were arbitrary. Not wrong, not bad, just arbitrary. Made up. Maintained by everyone pretending they're absolute truths. She didn't quit her job. Didn't denounce the system. She just stopped believing in it with the same intensity. Stopped performing her ambition with the same desperation. And within months, she became a ghost in that office. People stopped seeing her. Her ideas stopped landing. She was still doing excellent work, but it was as if she'd become invisible. She told me, "It's like I stepped out of a river, and now I'm watching everyone else flow past. I can see the current, see where it's going, but I'm not in it anymore. And they can't see me because they're still being carried." Exactly. Here's what's actually happening beneath the surface. Human beings are social creatures. We evolved in tribes where belonging meant survival. And belonging requires conformity. Not just behavioral conformity, but perceptual conformity. We need to agree on what's real, what matters, what the rules are. This agreement happens mostly unconsciously. We're constantly scanning each other for signals. Do you see the world the way I see it? Do you validate my reality? Are you part of the tribe? And when you awaken, when you see through the collective agreements, you stop sending the signals that say, yes, I believe in this shared reality with the same conviction you do. You're not hostile to it. You're not superior to it. You're just not identified with it anymore. You see it as one possible way of organizing experience, not the only way, not the true way, and this non-identification registers at a deep unconscious level as non-belonging, as otherness, as threat. Not because you're actually threatening anyone, but because your presence reminds people, at a level they can't articulate, that the reality they're invested in is constructed, that it could be otherwise, that they're choosing to believe in it. And that reminder is deeply uncomfortable for people who need the reality to be solid, fixed, unquestionable. So let me walk you through what happens. Not as separate forces attacking you, but as natural consequences of seeing clearly in a world that runs on shared blindness. First, you notice the conversations change, or rather, you notice that you can't participate in them the same way anymore. People are talking about their problems, their relationship drama, their work stress, their family conflicts, and you're listening, genuinely caring, but you're also seeing something they're not seeing, that they're creating much of their suffering through their interpretations, their stories, their identification with roles. You want to help, so you offer a perspective, gently, carefully. Something like, what if the problem isn't what they did, but how you're interpreting what they did? And you watch their face close. You've just invalidated their experience. You've suggested their suffering isn't real, isn't justified. You've failed to validate the story. So you learn to stay quiet, to just listen, to let people have their stories without trying to show them the way out. But this quietness creates its own distance, because you're not engaging anymore. You're not feeding the drama, and people sense it. They sense that you're not really with them in the problem. And they're right. You're not. Not because you don't care, but because you see that the problem is the story about the problem, and you can't pretend you don't see that. Second, you notice that your presence makes people uncomfortable in ways you can't quite name. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not being judgmental or preachy or superior. You're just being present. Just being yourself without the usual layers of performance. But people squirm. They fill the silence with nervous chatter. They avoid eye contact. They seem relieved when you leave. And you realize your presence is a mirror. When you're not performing, not hiding behind roles and stories, people see their own performance reflected back. They see their own masks. And most people don't want to see that. They want to believe the mask is their face. They want to believe the role is who they are. Your presence, simply by being authentic, challenges that belief without you saying a word. So they avoid you, not consciously, not with malice. They just find reasons to not be around you. They stop inviting you. They keep conversations brief and superficial. You've become uncomfortable to be around, simply by being comfortable with yourself. Third, you notice that people start projecting onto you. Because you're not performing a clear, recognizable role anymore, people don't know what to make of you. So they fill in the blanks with their own interpretations. Some decide you're depressed, some decide you're arrogant, some decide you're lost, some decide you think you're better than everyone else. None of these are true. You're just being present, being real, being yourself without the usual social packaging. But that openness becomes a blank screen onto which people project their own fears and judgments. And the more you try to explain, the worse it gets. Because you're trying to explain something that can't be explained to someone who's still operating from inside the movie. Your words just become more evidence for whatever story they've already decided about you. So you stop explaining. You let people think what they think. You accept being misunderstood. But this acceptance deepens the isolation. Because now you're not just alone. You're alone and misrepresented. You're surrounded by people who think they know you, but are actually relating to their projection of you. Fourth, You notice that your values have shifted in ways that make you incompatible with your old life. Things that used to matter don't matter anymore. Status, achievement, acquisition, approval. They're not bad. They're just not compelling. They're like toys you've outgrown. You can appreciate them, but you can't pretend they're important. And this shift makes you strange to people who are still driven by these things. They don't understand why you're not more ambitious, why you're not more concerned with success, why you're not more invested in the future. They interpret your lack of striving as laziness or depression or giving up. They don't see that you've simply stopped believing in the game they're playing, that you found something more interesting than winning. So they try to motivate you, to fix you, to get you back on track. And when you gently decline, when you stay in your own rhythm, they get frustrated. They feel like you're wasting your potential, throwing away opportunities, settling for less. But you're not settling. You're just playing a different game, one they can't see because they're still absorbed in the old one. Fifth, you notice that your relationships start falling away. Not all of them, but many of them. The friendships that were based on shared complaints, shared ambitions, shared distractions, they don't work anymore. Because you're not complaining with the same investment, not ambitious in the same direction, not interested in the same distractions. You try to maintain the connections. You show up, you listen, you care. But there's a growing gap. You're in different worlds now, speaking different languages, oriented toward different things. And eventually, quietly, the relationships fade, not with drama or confrontation, but with gentle distance. Fewer calls, fewer invitations, more polite excuses, and you let them go. Not because you don't love these people, but because you see that holding on would require you to go back to performing, to pretending, to abandoning yourself, to maintain the connection. And you can't do that anymore. Not because you're being stubborn, but because you literally can't. You've seen too much. You can't unsee it. You can't go back to sleep. Sixth, you notice that you're becoming more comfortable with silence, with solitude, with your own company. And this comfort makes you even stranger to a world that's terrified of being alone. People are constantly filling the void, with noise, with activity, with relationships, with entertainment, with work. Anything to avoid the silence, the stillness, the encounter with themselves. But you've discovered something in that silence. Something vast and peaceful and deeply nourishing. You've discovered that you're not actually alone when you're by yourself. That there's a presence, an awareness, that's always here, always full, always enough. So you stop running from solitude. You stop treating it as something to be fixed or filled. You start choosing it, seeking it, protecting it. And this makes you incomprehensible to people who experience solitude as abandonment, as loneliness, as evidence that something is wrong. They worry about you. They try to set you up with people, invite you to events, get you back out there. They can't understand that you're not isolated, you're integrated, you're not lonely, you're complete. Seventh, you notice that you're seeing patterns everywhere. Patterns in how people create their suffering, patterns in how societies maintain their illusions, patterns in how the same dramas play out across different contexts. And once you see the patterns, you can't participate in them with the same innocence. You see the setup, the predictable unfolding, the inevitable conclusion. It's like watching a movie you've seen 100 times. This doesn't make you cynical, but it does make you tired. Tired of watching people create the same problems, resist the same solutions, repeat the same cycles. You want to help. You want to point out the pattern. But you've learned that people can't see the pattern until they're ready, that pointing it out before they're ready just makes you seem condescending or detached. So you watch, you hold space, you offer perspective when asked, but mostly you just witness the human drama with a mixture of compassion and weariness. And this witnessing stance, this refusal to get pulled into the drama, makes you seem cold to people who need you to be as invested in their story as they are. Eighth, you notice that you're becoming less interested in being understood and more interested in understanding. Less interested in being seen and more interested in seeing. This shift is subtle but profound. You stop needing people to get you. You stop explaining yourself, defending yourself, trying to make yourself legible to others. You become more interested in seeing people clearly, seeing their pain, their patterns, their potential. without needing them to see you in return. This is freedom, but it's also exile, because reciprocal recognition is the foundation of human connection. When you stop needing to be seen, you step outside the basic social contract. People sense this. They sense that you're not seeking their validation, not performing for their approval, not dependent on their recognition. And this independence is both attractive and unsettling. Some people are drawn to it, sensing something free and authentic in you. But most people are disturbed by it, sensing that you've left the tribe in some fundamental way. So here you are, seeing clearly, seeing through the stories, the performances, the collective agreements about what's real and what matters. And this seeing has brought you to a strange place. Not exile in the dramatic sense. You're not banished or persecuted or punished, but exile in the sense of being fundamentally elsewhere, present in the world but not of it, participating but not absorbed, connected but not dependent. And I know this can feel like a curse, like you've lost something precious, the easy belonging, the simple certainty, the comfort of shared illusions. But let me offer you a different perspective. What if this isn't a curse? What if this is exactly what awakening looks like? Not the blissful enlightenment of spiritual fantasies, but the real thing. The messy, lonely, disorienting process of waking up in a world that's still dreaming. You haven't done anything wrong. You haven't failed at awakening. This isolation, this exile, this sense of being between worlds, this is part of the territory. Because awakening doesn't remove you from the human experience. It just shifts your relationship to it. You're still here, still human, still feeling everything, but you're no longer identified with the drama. You're the awareness in which the drama appears. And that awareness is naturally spacious, naturally quiet, naturally alone, not lonely, alone, complete in itself, not needing anything from the drama to be whole. The exile you're experiencing isn't punishment. It's the natural consequence of no longer needing the tribe to tell you who you are, of no longer needing the shared story to feel real, of no longer needing the performance to feel alive. You found something that doesn't depend on external validation, and that something is so much more nourishing than anything the tribe could offer, that you can't go back to seeking nourishment from the tribe. This is freedom. But freedom always looks like exile to those who are still imprisoned by the need to belong. So what do you do with this? How do you live in this strange, in-between space? You stop fighting it. You stop trying to make yourself fit back into the old world. You stop trying to make people understand. You stop trying to prove that you're not cold or arrogant or lost. You let yourself be misunderstood. You let yourself be invisible to those who can only see performances. You let yourself be alone in a way that's full rather than empty. And in that letting go, something shifts. You stop experiencing the exile as rejection and start experiencing it as spaciousness, as freedom, as the natural habitat of awareness. You're not being pushed out. You're being called home. Home to yourself. Home to the awareness that was never born and will never die. Home to the presence that doesn't need anything from anyone to be complete. And from that home, you can engage with the world. You can have relationships, do work, participate in the human drama. But you're no longer dependent on it. You're no longer lost in it. You're no longer seeking yourself in it. You can play the game without believing the game is all there is. And here's what's beautiful. Once you stop seeking belonging in the world of performances, you start finding real connection with others who are also awake. Not because you're looking for them, but because you're no longer hiding your frequency. These connections are rare. They're quiet. They don't look like the tribal belonging you left behind, but they're real in a way that tribal belonging never was, because they're not based on shared stories or mutual validation or collective agreement about what's real. They're based on mutual recognition of what we actually are beneath all the stories. Two beings recognizing each other. Two expressions of the same awareness meeting in the space between words. Two waves remembering they're the same ocean. This is the gift hidden in the curse, the treasure buried in the exile. You had to leave the tribe to find yourself. And in finding yourself, you discover that you were never separate from anything, that the exile was just the journey home, that the loneliness was just the space needed to discover you were never alone. So rest in the exile. Let yourself be strange. Let yourself be misunderstood. Let yourself be invisible to the world of performances. Because you're not lost. You're found. You're not abandoned. You're free. You're not cursed. You're awake. And being awake in a sleeping world will always feel like exile, until you realize that you're not an exile from the world, you're an exile from the dream of separation, and that exile is the only real homecoming there is.